Good morning, Kraken fans. Everett Fitzhugh here, and it's been a big week for the Seattle Kraken as we've made a massive announcement a couple of days ago. I want to welcome you in to our AMA with new Kraken TV broadcaster John Forslund, presented by our first founding partner, Symetra. And John comes to Seattle from the Carolina Hurricanes, and in that same announcement, we also announced that Root Sports will be your home for all Seattle Kraken broadcasts coming up in our inaugural season of 21-22. Without further ado, I'd love to welcome in the newest voice of your Seattle Kraken, John Forslund. John, first of all, welcome to the Pacific Northwest. And I know that I've had an opportunity to talk to you personally over these past couple of days, but I want you to take the fans through your process of coming to Seattle and your excitement level of being here in Seattle.
Everett, great to see you this morning, and my level of enthusiasm is sky high. I'm overjoyed. I'm so lucky to get this opportunity. I can't wait to get out there and connect with the great fans of the Seattle Kraken, meet you in person, meet the entire staff. Again, it came to me at a great time in my career, very lucky, and I think we're going to go through a journey together here as we see step by step, formulating the team, putting it together, the first game, the first win, the first loss, first shootout, first playoff win, first series won, and someday the Stanley Cup. Isn't it great to think about that? It's going to be great.
You said Stanley Cup there, and I got some goosebumps going on right now. So thinking about bringing the Stanley Cup back to Seattle is something that I know a lot of fans are excited about. Take us through this process of how you found yourself here in Seattle.
Well, it's funny when things happen for a reason, right? So when my career it was over in North Carolina with the Hurricanes, and my contract situation kind of broke down, caught me by surprise. The first phone call I got on July 1st was from Ron Francis, who called me not about this job. He called to ask how I was. He asked about my family. And I bring this up because I think it's important for the fans to understand that he's a Hall of Famer, but he's also a Hall of Fame person. And the Kraken are very lucky to have him in charge of the hockey operations of this organization. So he put me in touch with Todd Leiweke. We had a nice conversation for months. The team had to figure out, what the rights and where they would land, who would be the rights holder. They did with Root Sports. They presented me with a package in and around the holidays, and it was something I couldn't refuse. I was overjoyed, re-energized again. And it's a wonderful opportunity as a broadcaster to get a chance to do this again. I'm very proud of the 23 years with the Hurricanes from day number one in 1997, but now we all get to do it again.
Want to let fans know you can submit questions all throughout this entire half hour. We'll be taking your questions, and we really want you to drive this conversation. So please don't be afraid to submit those questions. We're going to go to our first question right now. And you mentioned your 23 years in Carolina. You won a Stanley Cup in Carolina. We'll get to that later. But Karen Beauchamp, our senior global travel manager from Symetra, would love to know, what do you think will be the biggest difference announcing for the Kraken versus the Carolina Hurricanes?
I don't know. I think Karen, they're going to be similar. In some ways, it'll be different. It'll be a market that's used to Major League sports. When we first came to North Carolina in the late 90s, it was a college atmosphere, college basketball, college football, a little bit of NASCAR. We had to find our niche. We had to find, our place within that landscape. Coming to a major city that's used to Major League sports, the Kraken will find, their place too. And it's our job to make sure that we do it correctly and we earn the trust of the fans. So I don't think a lot of it's going to be different. The game is infectious. Hockey will take over your spirit. Hockey will drive your enthusiasm. And when you connect with this team, you'll be with us every step of the way. And there'll be a different story every night. Different players will emerge, and we'll tell all of those stories, and we'll connect the fans one-to-one with all of that. And I think it won't take long whatsoever. Whether there be fans that are in that market that are used to the National Hockey League, they're going to be Kraken fans, or maybe they follow another team and they have a spot in their heart for the Kraken too, or the new people. Because I'll tell you what, in the Tar Heel state, the people that never saw the game before really locked in and really became our most ardent followers, a true Caniac. So we're going to develop all of that with the Kraken Nation and get this thing cranked up.
You know, you touched on something that I think is really important here in the Seattle market, in that everyone loves to call Seattle a non-traditional hockey market, but there's hockey all over the place here. For you, having essentially gone through this expansion process before with Hartford moving to Carolina, now with you coming to Seattle, what are some of the things you can take from your experiences there to help grow the game here in Seattle?
You know, Everett, if you asked the Whalers in 1979 when they joined from the World Hockey Association, if you asked them, they would tell you that the Boston Bruins felt that Hartford was a non-traditional hockey market, right? So I have lived this, and I cannot, I don't have much time for it, because I think, you know, non-tradition, maybe just because the team hasn't been there yet, but we will build a tradition. And I think in Raleigh, it was a situation where they were almost caught off guard. It was a relocation. Mm-hmm. You didn't have the buildup. It was a different time in 1997 than we have today. The Kraken staff have done an amazing job with the publicity and the social media aspects, all these different platforms that we have today to build up the enthusiasm. You look at the fan base and how many season ticket holders we already have and who's on the waiting list and all this different thing. It is truly a different circumstance that way. But again, we have to build tradition, and we'll build tradition from the ground floor, and that's something special.
Larry Yeager on Facebook asked a question that I think is perfect segue for that. And you can hear your passion come through for this market. So how long did it take you to make that decision to accept this job and move to Seattle?
Once they presented once they presented the situation to me, it took me about 3 seconds. I mean, it was that quick, but there was a lot of thought behind it going into the whole thing. And that's where Ron and Todd were really good to me, because they allowed me to step back from what happened. They allowed me to call the games in Toronto and Edmonton of the NHL's return to play in the summer. They allowed the situation to get footing with a rights holder. That's very important. So the package was complete, and bang, there you have it. So it didn't take long, because anyone in my business, as you know, would just jump at this opportunity.
Here with the new television voice of your Seattle Kraken, John Forslund, on our AMA presented by our founding partner, Symetra. Continue to submit those questions. We want you, the fans, to drive this conversation. A lot has been made of your relationship with Ron Francis, going back to his time as a player and then his time as an executive in Carolina. So Bungalow on Twitter wants to know, how do you feel about teaming up with Ronnie Franchise again?
I feel great on two fronts. Number one, personally, there'll be a comfort zone for me knowing that he's there, and many on the hockey side I already know and have worked with in the past. So that's good. But like I said at the top, Ron made that phone call. That meant an awful lot to me, and I'll never forget that day, because I needed it. I really did. Also, on a professional front, I can't wait to see him see through with his plan. A plan that he initiated when he was a general manager with the Hurricanes. And I was able to watch him as a fan when he played in the 80s in Hartford. Then when I joined the Whalers, he was traded the previous trading deadline. So I saw the fan base drop from around 12,000 season tickets to 6,000. And I realized it wasn't because of just what he did on the ice. It was because of the impact he had in the community. And you'll see that in that market. And then to see him come back to North Carolina as a free agent, kind of get reacquainted again, follow his career to the end, be part of his jersey retirement night. I'll never forget that. It was one of the highlights of my career when they hoisted number 10 up to the rafters at PNC Arena. And he had me involved in everything he did with his family the night before, and all the parties and dinners and so on, first class across the board. And then to see him come back into coaching and then get to management and become the GM of the Hurricanes. I watched him very closely. I watched how calculated he was. He really took over a team that had nothing. He didn't have many prospects whatsoever. Drafting and development, that's all he said. And you look where they're at right now, his footprint is all over that team. And they're an elite team, in my opinion, in the NHL. And he'll do the same thing with the Kraken. He surrounds himself with great people. And he has a brilliant, absolutely brilliant hockey mind.
Hey, what do you say? I want to know, does that die with the Hurricanes, or does it move west and continue on once Tyler White on Facebook asked us that question?
It's all coming with me. Every single one of these phrases is coming with me until we get tired of them. I hope you never do. that one's very personal. That one is all about my father, who passed away my very first season in the American Hockey League. I was 22. My dad died suddenly, oddly enough, on the night and the day that I received my first paycheck. He's my best friend, was my best friend. He was my color man from age 10 to about 16 when I fired him for a lack of preparation. And then he used to say it all the time. Hey, what do you say? So in the minors, I decided to use it to tag a goal. And then a couple of years later after that, I realized, you know what, I'm going to use it on a goal that I think clinches the game, whether it be in the second period, third period. It's obvious in overtime. That's what I did. So that one comes with me. They all do. You know, they're very important to me because many of them were spontaneous. That's Hockey Baby just came out one night. And I've been using it for years. There's some other things too, and maybe there's some things people get sick of, but that's all right. Just let me know, and I can change on the fly.
You know, we have one more question up on the screen. I'll get to that here in a second, but I want to kind of expand on that a little bit and just some of your broadcasting influences growing up. Obviously, your father played a huge part in your life, and being such a big hockey fan as you were from an early age, what got you into broadcasting? What got you into wanting to saying, I want to be an NHL broadcaster?
Well, it was May 10th, 1970. I was 8 years old, and I remember watching the Bruins win the Stanley Cup on Mother's Day, a Sunday afternoon, Bobby Orr flying through the air in overtime. It's iconic, right? There's a statue in front of the Garden in Boston of that moment.
Absolutely.
And anyway, I decided that I wanted to be associated with the game in this way as a play caller because I listened to the great Dan Kelly that afternoon on CBS, and he became my first influence. He became my first mentor. I never got to meet Dan. He passed away in the 80s when I was working in the minor leagues. But I worship him from afar, his style and the way his voice carried the play. You see, in hockey, as you know, there's a flow, and there's a flow to our voices. And the hope is that if you're in another room and you hear us get excited, you might come rushing back to the television because something's about to happen. That's the nature of the game. So I decided that's what I wanted to do then. I didn't know how I was going to accomplish this goal. Like everyone as a young kid, it was a hobby of mine. I used to do the games off the television, make up things along the way, but I figured out a way of how to prepare that I still use today in terms of my game preparation. And then I got a lucky break to join the American Hockey League team in Springfield, Massachusetts in 1984. I was there for 7 years, 2 championships there, and then matriculated onto the NHL in 91.
So you've been a part of a lot of calls. You've heard a lot of calls. Sean Farrow on Facebook would love to know, what is your favorite call of all time?
Well, that is a great question, Sean. Oh man, I really, there was a call back in 2009, and it was an early playoff series, but UC Jokinen scored a goal for the Hurricanes late against Marty Brodeur and the New Jersey Devils. And it was a last second buzzer beater, okay? And I got it. And what you want to do in that situation is make sure, obviously, you're accurate again. But the goal scored, and I just happened to look at the clock, and there was a fraction of a second left, and I knew it was over. And I stamped the goal call with that. And then there was this long review. They're looking at the clock. There was maybe a goalie interference. It was like a rain delay, right? So we didn't know what the heck was going to happen next. But I like that one because of its accuracy and the fact that it stamped a huge moment in franchise history. But for me, from a broadcasting standpoint, it's really hard to get those moments without getting too carried away. You get so emotional, you're tied to your fan base, you're tied to the team, you want them to win. But if you really get carried away, you can either lose the accuracy of the call or your voice will crack or something like that. You just want to make sure that it's right. So that would be one of them. But I've been lucky. There have been so many situations and overtime thrillers and triple overtimes and all these different things. It's hard to categorize one as the greatest of all time. And I was lucky enough to be part of 3 championship seasons. So those games are unbelievably special.
Wild Mace would love to know, cheers from a Canes fan who now has a new West Coast team. What are you looking forward to in the Pacific Northwest?
The people, the fans. One of the greatest things about this job and this gig is connection with a fan base. You can be an announcer, and I get an opportunity and privilege to work on the national front. That's a lot of fun. That's exciting. It's national television, but you're serving two fan bases. When the game is over, you leave, and you feel okay about your job, but you don't have that winning and losing feeling you have when you're connected with a team. So you feel the hurt of the fans when the team's not going well, and you feel the exhilaration when the team is winning, and you just do your part. So I can't wait to meet the fans of the Pacific Northwest. I've never been to Seattle. Okay, so I took this job. I have never been to the city, but I've watched from afar, going all the way back to when I was young and used to watch the Supersonics on television, and Gus Williams and Jack Sikma and downtown Freddie Brown and all these guys, and they moved over to the Kingdome. But I remember the crowds, and obviously with the Seahawks, you look at the atmosphere and you look at the passion of those fans. We're going to get all of that inside Climate Pledge Arena. You'll see. It's going to be absolutely tremendous. And I'm coming from a place of a fervent fan base in Raleigh, where the Caniacs were shaped over the years, and it's one of the loudest buildings in the league come playoff time. But we're going to be the team that does that. You'll see.
New television voice of your Seattle Kraken, John Forslund, joining us here on our AMA, presented by our founding partner, Symetra. And John, I think we probably have one of the more important questions we're going to ask you here today from Sam Fowler, MLB, on Twitter. Beatles or the Stones? And then a second part to that question, Star Trek or Star Wars?
Stones. Okay. Stones for sure for me. And neither one. I'm not a big sci-fi guy.
Okay.
So I'm old enough to remember the original Star Wars in theaters. I never saw a second of it. So we've had these Star Wars nights over the years in the NHL, right? And they poke fun at me because I have no clue what's going on. I've been able to Google and figure some things out. So I'm okay getting through it, but I just never latched on to sci-fi for whatever reason. My apologies to Captain Kirk.
So going back to that Beatles and Stones question real quick, players are notorious for their pregame pump-up mixes and listening to music as they get fired up. What's in your iPod? What's in your headset when you're walking into the arena trying to get pumped up for a big game?
It's rock music. I mean, I'm old, so I love classic rock, all these great bands of the past. I'm a huge Springsteen guy. I've seen him almost 30 times live.
Wow.
So, I mean, I'm a huge fan of Bruce Springsteen, always have been since I was turned on to Born to Run in 1975. Then I went in the back of the catalog and saw what he did before that, took it with me to college, and just continued to grow with that over the years. So I really love him and his band. But I love all kinds of music. My grandmother was an opera singer. They came from Sweden, and she joined the Boston Opera Company back in the 1920s. And so my dad, although not a musician, played music by ear, and he never went anywhere with it. You know, he went to the war, World War II. He was a Marine. He never did anything with it. I'm an appreciator of music. I'm not musically inclined myself, but I love it. So I've been to a ton of shows. It's hard to rank, my favorites because they're all there. And really the line of distinction between the Stones and the Beatles is the fact that I've seen the Stones live numerous times. And I think they're unbelievable touring band, which the Beatles did shows, but I think they didn't do enough of them. And it was a different time, of course.
So I'm not going to ask you to rank your best concert, but do you have a favorite concert? I imagine maybe Springsteen's up there, but can you point to a favorite concert that you've been to?
Best show I ever went to, we saw the Boss in Pittsburgh during the conference final in 2009.
Wow.
I was lucky enough to get seats flanking the stage. So it's about as close as I've ever been. Wow. And this ugly mug got up on the Jumbotron or the video screens during Glory Days. I had no idea. And it was during the conference final. So a lot of our colleagues from CBC, Hockey Night in Canada, were in a suite upstairs, and they saw this. I had no idea I was making a fool of myself, but the Boss actually came over and gave me a point. So that's the highlight of my moment, me making a fool of myself, and I think that's why that's my favorite show. But I've seen a ton of shows, and I love live music. I can't wait for it to come back.
Tons of great atmospheres that you've been in from a concert perspective and from a game perspective. At Kraken Crew _ via Twitter would love to know, can you imagine the atmosphere on opening night?
It's hard to imagine something that's going to be this spectacular. I got a general feel for what it's going to be, but until I see the arena, and I've only seen the visuals, and knowing about the building in its past and the roof and so on, I think it's going to be exceptionally loud. I think it will rival what we saw in Las Vegas a couple of years ago in terms of energy, in terms of presentation. You look at everything that's been done by the team so far. I applaud everyone on the game presentation side and the team side. All these videos that have come out have been spectacular. So I think that's what it's going to be like, and we'll just take it all in together. But I expect it to be one of the greatest moments of my career. I really believe that.
You've traveled all around the NHL. You've been to countless venues, and I want to stick with this topic here. What are some of the arenas that potentially could give Seattle a run for their money when it comes to the atmosphere inside? What are some of the best crowds, some of the best cities that you've been to around the NHL?
T-Mobile Arena is fascinating with the Vegas Golden Knights. It really is. They've done an unbelievable job. It is like going to a Las Vegas show when you go to the game. Then you have the old standards, right? You've got Chicago, UC, the Madhouse on Madison. I love Joe Louis Arena. I used to love that place. I really did. I loved calling games there. Everybody complained about it, but I never had a bad time there. Never did. So that was great. Staples Center is electric when they're going, and I covered them during the playoffs in the glory years of their runs for the Cup. You got Boston, you got Madison Square Garden, but my favorite building is the Bell Center in Montreal. And Bell Center in Montreal is spectacular. They replicated a lot of the old Montreal Forum, brought it to the new building. There's a rich tradition there. And, as we go around the league in our first season, and hopefully it's a conventional schedule, we're crossing over into conferences and so on. We go to Montreal, we'll probably be there only once, but maybe we can just tell a few stories and get to the Oregon and look at the banners, and just, this is something that our fans will love to see and we can talk about. And the broadcast location, a lot of this recently has been driven by broadcast location. And that's one of the best in the league. You hang on a gondola right over the rink. You can feel the game underneath you, and you can hear the guys, you can hear the communication, you can feel the hits and see the shots and the velocity of shots and all that. So that's one of my favorite places.
Going back to your broadcasting work, Max Barber via Facebook, how do you remember the players' names when the action's going on? For me, that would be the hardest.
I just make it up as we go along, and if someone calls me on it, then I'm in trouble, right? So I want the fans to pay attention, because we do make mistakes. We all do. Hockey's a game of mistakes. It's funny, sometimes a game that has the most mistakes is the most exciting, and a game that's flawless from a coaching standpoint can be at times boring. But I haven't found a game yet that I find that way. But when I look at it, it's just a situation of making sure that you are prepared. If you're prepared, and I take a lot of pride in my game preparation, I'm ready to go. So, it's putting everything to a test this season with our shows on NBC, because most of them are remote, and I'm calling games off monitors, as I will tonight. But it's a challenge, but it's a good one.
Calling games off monitors, I know, has to be something that's very difficult as a broadcaster myself. I've been trying to do it here in my home office on my TV, but what have been some of those challenges for you doing games in a studio off of a monitor compared to being live at the arena?
Well, it's just, there's that confidence that you have as a broadcaster, not in your ability, but just in what you're saying is accurate, that you don't have when you're looking at the game on the monitor. So sometimes the officials are out of frame. You can't see the delayed penalty. You can't. You miss a penalty. You miss goalposts and crossbars. If the effects mics aren't amped up the right way, you won't hear the ping, right? So then you're guessing, and it's not a good feeling. The other night, Mark Stone hit the crossbar in the Vegas Golden Knights, and I guessed. I called it off the bar, but I wasn't sure. The replay showed that I was right, but many times you will be wrong. It's not a good feeling. I don't think the viewers mind as much, but I take it to heart. It's just a pet peeve of mine. So that's what that's been like. But again, it's because of the conditions, and we have to deliver a good broadcast for our fans, and that's what we're attempting to do.
There have been a lot of good moments, heartfelt moments over the past few years in the NHL, and I think one of them was the David Ayres game from last year. So Greg Yorchuk on Facebook, he asks, did you call the David Ayres game? And if you did, what was that experience like?
Sure did. February 22nd. I'll never forget it. It's one of the highlights of my career. And people say, memorable games, you've got championship games and so on. But this game, because of the circumstance, ranks right up there, Everett. It was a night where the Hurricanes needed a win. They weren't playing very well. And it's getting later in the season, and people around the team were getting anxious. And, they got off to a really good start. But James Reimer, the starting goaltender, got hurt. Peter Mrazek went in, and then he went out to play a puck just inside the blue line and got cemented by Kyle Clifford, and he was down and he was done. And now both goalies are out. So this, as a situation I had never seen before live, nor had ever been in a position to call it. So we weren't even sure the guy's name. We weren't getting any of the information. They don't make the emergency backup goalies' names readily available for us. So we got his name. I didn't know if we was pronouncing it right. And we were Googling information about him as the game went along and trying to build this story. The first two shots went in the second period. He went to the locker room, was taking selfies with ushers and security guards and all this stuff. And Rod Brindamore said to the goalie coach, go talk to him and tell him this is an important game. And anyway, the Canes buckled down the third period, played like it was game 7 and got it done. It was a tremendous story. It's like the movie Rudy, It's one of these things that could possibly be a film someday. He did a great job afterward with all the appearances, the nighttime programs he was on, and all this different promotional stuff he did for the league and for the team. But it was a wonderful moment, and I look back at it, and I think we handled it okay. We did a good job with the broadcast. That's the most important thing.
Well, like Bob Miller's voice in the Mighty Ducks, maybe we'll hear your voice in that movie for David Ayres. We've got a few minutes here left on our AMA presented by our founding partner, Symetra, and I think this is a perfect question to end this segment on. You touched on your catchphrase earlier, hey, what do you say, and how much that means to you. So Joe Rogel would love to know, where will you draw inspiration from to create a catchphrase that Kraken fans will always remember?
Joe, that is a terrific question, and I don't know the answer because many of these phrases are spontaneous. So something will develop, and we'll see where it goes. I'm not going to dream something up. I'm going to wait for it to kind of organically, that's a nice word we use today, right? Organically evolve and see where it goes. And then it will be cemented for our fans with the Kraken. So I'm not going to get ahead of myself on that one. There are some things that are out there already that I find really cool and interesting to hear and all of that, but we'll come up with something, and it'll just happen. And it happens within the frenetic pace of the game. That's how all these things come about. I don't think of them or write them out or think, geez, we're going to use this. It just comes out. It just comes out, and we go with it.
Well, John, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us today. And I've said it to you multiple times. I am very excited to have the opportunity to work with you and to learn under you. I know that Kraken fans are going to enjoy listening to your calls. Before you leave, tell fans where they can catch you for the remainder of the season if they would like a little taste of what they can expect moving forward.
Well, I have Wednesday night hockey tonight, which is Chicago and Nashville on NBCSN. 3 games next week. I've got February 1st, I'm back here. I think it's Pittsburgh and Washington. On the 3rd, I've got a doubleheader. I'm doing a 5:30 game and a 10 o'clock game.
Wow.
I really have to have a private jet for that. But anyway, I'll be in the studio, obviously, for both of those. And then high noon on Super Bowl Sunday. Eddie Olczyk, Brian Boucher, and myself will be in Washington. So that's the next week ahead, and then we keep on going.
The new television voice of your Seattle Kraken, John Forslund. This has been our AMA presented by our founding sponsor, Symetra. John, thank you so much for your time. Enjoy your day. Good luck on the call tonight, and we're looking forward to having you back here in Seattle real soon.
Can't wait to get there, Everett. Thanks so much. And you and I are colleagues, but we're going to be great friends. So I can't wait to see you in person.
Looking forward to it. That's going to put a bow on our AMA presented by our founding partner, Symetra. Thank you so much, Symetra, for all of your work and help with putting this on today. Also want to thank Bryce over there in the corner providing the American Sign Language for us today. Thank you so much for your efforts as well. Everett Fitzhugh saying so long. Enjoy the rest of your day.